Hey, party people. Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast, where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host, as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined by Steve Morrison for a game of Errant. Steve is a writer, game master, and the host of Errant Adventures, which is an actual play podcast focused on single-player role-playing games that blends written fiction and improv actual play to create something truly special. The show itself is really wonderful, but also I want to shout out that Steve recently had me as a guest on a special bonus episode to play some Ironsworn Sundered Isles as like a pirate story together, and it was really magical. So like, if you enjoy hearing me play two-player role-playing games, which if you're listening to this audio, I have to assume there's at least a chance, you should head to errantadventurespod.com and check it out. You can also find a link to Errant Adventures in the show notes. Errant, by friend of the show Christine Previs, chosen of course by Steve and I for this episode because we cannot resist a good play on names, is a two-player role-playing game about a knight on a quest. Inspired by stories such as The Green Knight, one player takes on the role of the knight, taking on their sworn chivalric code and attempting to complete a quest that has been handed to them, and the other takes on the role of the landscape, providing obstacles, challenges, and setbacks for the knight as they pursue their quest. This game rips. I was really blown away by it. Like, it's doing something really special, and I was really, really excited by the way that it really brings that quest and that code as this really constricting element into play. It's really cool. I really can't wait for you to hear it. You can get more information about Errant at cprevas, that's cprevas.itch.io, or check the show notes for more information. Before we dive in, we have two new Patreon backers to thank. Thank you to Kevin Bates and a dear friend of the show, Marn Last Name, for their support on Patreon. Patreon backers get early access to episodes, bonus audio, such as Party of 1+1, which is designer spotlights, returning guests, sequel games, all that kind of cool stuff. Plus audio from live shows such as our Party of One Says Go Bird series at Unity Java, and weird one-off side projects like Batman, Bump in the Night, which is a fan fiction actual play that Martin and I produce together each month. You can find all of that and more at patreon.com/JeffStormer. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. I am so excited. Today I'm sitting down with Steve Morrison. Steve, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited for today's game. This is going to be an absolute delight. But before we get into that, why don't you take a moment to let our lovely listeners at home know about anything that you've got going on that you might want them to know about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run a solo actual play podcast called Errant Adventures. I've done so for about 3 years now, and I have over 150 episodes released, 3 kind of major seasons, and then some random little series here and there, covering a bunch of different games. And I'm currently in production in my next kind of big campaign, which is going to be a solo game of Traveler, the sci-fi RPG.
Fuck, I love Traveler.
Yeah.
God, what a good, like, truly one of my my go-to solo game experiences. It has been for, I mean, longer than Party of One, of just sitting down and going, I'm gonna roll up a guy, and hopefully his life is not so miserable that I have to close the Google Doc out of feeling bad that I willed this being into existence.
Yeah, and I'll admit, I actually am coming to Traveler fairly new in the last 6 months or so. I mean, I've heard about it for a long time, but for whatever reason, I just had never sat down and played it. And I was kind of going through the process of deciding what my game system was going to be for this new season, this new series. And I played a lot of Ironsworn Starforged, which I absolutely love. And
one of my favorite games.
Yeah, and I am on record as saying I could play that game every day for the rest of my life and be completely happy.
It really is just that good. It really is just that good of a game.
It is. But I felt like I had done a lot of Starforged, and I wanted to branch out a little bit, and I wanted to tell a sci-fi story in my own homebrew world that I've been writing fiction in for the last 10, 12 years. And in the course of looking around at systems, Traveler came up again and again, and I decided to try it out. And honestly, kind of exactly what you said, I created a couple characters just as a test, and I fell in love so much with the character creation process.
It's the best. There's nothing else. There's nothing else like it. There is truly nothing else quite like the year by year rolling of dice and watching a character develop in ways that you will never once anticipate when you start the process.
Exactly. And so that made me fall in love with it. And it is a simple enough system that I feel like soloing it for an actual play show is not terrible. It's not all just me talking about random rules and stuff like that. But there's enough crunch there that if I really want to delve into some intense systems for this or that, it's there. I've got the option.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I love this. This has made me so happy to hear about this. And today, we are playing Errant, which is a 2-player role-playing game by a friend of the show, Christine Previs. It is a game about a knight alone on a quest for their lord. You are going to take on the role of a knight, and I am going to put your knight through a quest. It is not a quest that is going to challenge their physical nature. It is a test that is going to challenge the codes, oaths, and beliefs that they hold true to themselves. And we are going to see if they can return home to their lord in one piece or if they are banished to the wastes forever.
I'm so excited.
I'm so stoked.
and terrified, a little bit terrified.
A little bit terrified. I think we're playing in a space that I think is going to be weird and spooky and emotional, but like I'm stoked.
Yeah.
What particularly are you excited about coming into the game today?
Well, I mean, first of all, I had to be drawn to this game because I named my show Errant Adventures, and this game is called Errant. So I felt as though there was a natural synergy there.
It's fate at that point.
Exactly. But I've always been a fan of kind of the King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, knight errant adventurers going out, samurai ronin, whatever. So the idea of playing what may begin as a heroic character who is a noble knight, but who through the course of their adventures may have to, well, I won't even say may have to, will wrestle with those truths and the sense of honor that they have is something that is incredibly appealing to me.
Likewise. I think the thing that I'm really vibing on is the way that it, like, I love a good environmental storytelling. I love when nature reflects someone's inner state. That's my jam. That's when I'm nodding my head. And like I really love I love a good journey. I think this is we're going to get to like play in some spaces and travel to some places. And I am excited to put a character through the ringer today. I think my answer to that question.
Absolutely.
And so with that, let's make ourselves a knight, and then we'll figure out that knight's quest. So when we make a knight, the knight may or may not have a name, but in the vast, strange world outside the Lord's domain, the name of an unproven knight has little meaning. Instead, we are going to agree on some pronouns and give ourselves a brief physical description. What is the first thing that others notice upon seeing them? Is it a piece of clothing, an insignia, a demeanor? What is the defining quality of our knight? And then we're going to flesh out their chivalric code and piece together what their honor is and what the relics that they bring with them are. So when you envision your knight, what is the detail that you see as they sort of breach the mist and are gazed upon by travelers in the world?
So because this knight is inexperienced, I really like the idea of them wearing armor that is pristinely cleaned, but there is the sign of wear and battle on it. And given their youth and their inexperience, and maybe the way in which the armor doesn't quite fit, it gives this sense that it is an heirloom that was passed down maybe from a parent who was a knight before them.
I like this. I'm almost envisioning a crack. I don't know where. Maybe it's on a shoulder pauldron. Maybe it's just like, that feels like a good spot for like one big noticeable crack in the armor that would be the first thing you might notice in this large, ornate elder suit that arrives, and the first thing you see is that the shoulder there's this looming crack that points towards some kind of use, but also points more towards like a lack of repair. Like it's the kind of thing that you could have sealed up, but maybe this knight doesn't know how or hasn't taken the time to do so. Like it speaks to a certain level of carelessness, but not necessarily rooted in not necessarily rooted in like apathy, right? Like
inexperience. It's rooted in experience.
That feels good. That feels great. I like this. So now we are going to flesh out your knight's chivalry. Well, give us some pronouns for the knight. What are you thinking?
So I like the idea of just going with they them pronouns.
They them works
to leave it very ambiguous.
All right, they them. Let's flesh out their chivalry code.
All right.
This is the knight. This is the things that you must always do and must never do. You have 3 commandments, 2 mandates, the things you must do, and 1 prohibition, the things you must never do. There is a list in the game. We'll go through them. I will read out our options here. Mandates are you must remain faithful to thy given word. You must provide assistance to those who ask it. Be generous and give largesse to everyone. Offer thine bread and clothes to those with less. Use violence only as thy last resort. Thou shalt obey anyone bearing the symbol of thy Lord. Thou shalt persevere to the end in any enterprise begun. Thou shalt spread tales of thy Lord to all corners of the land. Demonstrate the might of thy Lord and their subjects to those who would oppose them. Thou shalt claim all distant lands in the name of thy Lord. Thou shalt destroy anything unnatural or unloved by thou Lord. And thou shalt always give in equivalence to what has been given. Which are a few of those mandates that really speak to what you want your knight to represent?
I mean, so the first one that kind of jumped out at me is thou shalt obey anyone bearing the symbol of thy Lord. And I think that's because I'm thinking of it as a game master, as a storyteller, of like, that's a really good one to lean on to create some drama.
Sure.
So I'm gonna go with that one. So obey anyone bearing the symbol of thy Lord. But other than that, I get one more. Is there any that are jumping out to you as something that would be interesting to play with?
That's a great question. I think in a similar headspace, thou shalt persevere to the end in any enterprise begun.
Yep.
Feels like a thing I want to put you through, for lack of a better way to put it. I want to put this knight in some situations where the correct response is to say fuck this and to walk away.
Yep.
I think is the most fun option to me.
Perfect. I love it.
So we also have a list of prohibitions. You're going to choose one of these that you shall never do. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not recoil before thine enemy. Thou shalt not do harm to those without protection. Thou shalt not refuse a challenge from an equal. Thou shalt not suffer a heretic to live. Thou shalt not accept the hospitality of anyone with less than you. Thou shalt not answer an oath to anyone besides thy Lord. Thou shalt not take from another for thine own benefit. And thou shalt not heed advice from those whose allegiance is unknown.
Those are some good prohibitions. So if I've got my, because I'm trying to game this out a little bit and think about, what's the prohibition that is going to get me into the most trouble with the 2 mandates that I've taken. So I feel as though possibly not refusing a challenge from an equal could be.
I feel like that combo almost lets you off the hook.
Okay.
Like my thought process, I was looking at that one and that feels very compelling, but what pops into my head is that like it pushes you into a position where if you were backed into a corner and violence against someone wearing the symbol of thy Lord was the only outcome,
Mm-hmm.
then you could argue that like, well, they challenged me and I had to face it. Like there's like
Fair.
finding one where that almost felt like an out to me, which is why I was on the fence about it.
Yeah. And I feel like similarly, doing thou shalt not swear an oath to anyone besides thy Lord is like, if I'm already obeying anybody who bears the symbol of my Lord, I'm probably not thinking about swearing an oath to anyone else.
Sure.
I don't know. Is there anything, again, I'm going to kind of throw it to you. Is there anything that's jumping out at you?
I'm looking through these. You know which one is really sitting with me that I kind of brushed over at a first glance, but is really hitting? Thou shalt not take from another for thine own benefit.
Okay.
Feels fun. Like there's a lot of like, again, it's a thing that I think would be fun to, it's an area I think would be really enjoyable to needle. And I'm excited to kind of like play in that particular gray area.
I like it.
All right.
Because I think it'll be an interesting test to see if this knight is able to convince themselves that, well, this is not for my benefit. It's for the benefit of my Lord.
Sure.
So it's not, I'm not, there are ways to play it that could make for some interesting drama.
I think that's the vibe. You also have a number of relics. By default, you get to choose one relic. You may also choose additional relics, but you lose 1 point of honor for each additional relic that you carry. There is a list of relics here. We have a whole bunch of them that I'm not going to read out all of them, but we have a list of relics. Is there a particular relic that you feel like you want to start out with?
So I looked over the list of relics, and if I might actually have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Which is, I really love fairy stories and the sort of the connection of the fae with knights and sort of the that sort of mythos. And so I almost wonder if the relic that is bestowed upon my knight from their lord is a crown of leaves that are always kind of fresh and in season. So it's like a laurel of leaves that were maybe gifted by some fae lord or lady to my lord. And this is a relic that signals the bearer as a friend of nature.
I've already kind of got a magical. So the structure of a given relic is, for example, the pendant of Elisandra the Brave. You can find safe passage through a physical landscape. Like it gives you an ability that you can lean on to kind of invoke a certain magical thing. I think what I would imagine that this floral crown evokes is, I'm thinking about like fae tropes. I'm thinking about like the court. I'm thinking about like fae meals. I'm pulling on that thread, and I almost want it to be, maybe you are if something like you are welcome at tables, or like if you call for a meeting and a meal, like that call is answered. Like, how does any of that feel?
Ooh, I like the idea of that, leaning on the hospitality aspect.
That's kind of the magic of the Fae to me, is that sense of hospitality, and I'm trying to find the exact right magical effect to tie into that.
Yeah. What? Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just wondering if it might be something like, when you accept hospitality, regardless of the intentions of those who offer it, you will pass through safely.
That's really good. That's great. That's fantastic. Okay, great. You've got your character's relic. You started out with 6 points of honor. This is what is going to test. We are going to test over the course of our quest. And now we flesh out what our quest is. The knight has been sent on a quest by their lord with a specific objective. This may be concrete, seeking out a plant with the ability to cure all ailments and return it to me within 3 days, or abstract, wander into the world and discover the true nature of beasts that lie beyond the walls. I have been thinking about this, and I'm trying to decide exactly where I want to land. This has all worked out really nicely with the first idea that I had, and I'm going to lean into that, which is you are traversing to another court to strike peace with another lord of another domain.
I love it.
And this is the what's the aesthetic? I don't want it to just be the Fae, but like I'm trying to think of a good another mystical or made up mystical on the spot. Like what's the other energy that we bring to the table here?
So are we thinking that our court, the court that this knight is originating from, is in some way connected to the Fae?
That feels pretty good. That feels really good.
Okay. So what would be something that would be oppositional to the Fae? I mean, we could just go with like, oh, it's the land of men or something like that are encroaching on the Fae forest, or
do you know what we're gonna pull on? It's gonna be a little bit straight fantasy. We're just gonna inject it here, but this is the court of the Goliaths. Great stone beings, ancient, older than nature, older than the dragon. These are the Goliaths, the stone beings that stroll the earth. You are going to speak to the court of the Goliaths to broach peace between the Fae human alliance that is your court. You are going to strike peace with the court of the Goliath.
Awesome.
The Goliath King. That's just a good phrase, and I'm excited about that.
Before there were the forests, there were the roots of the earth.
That is correct. This is good. I'm liking this. All right. We have decided on the quest. We have our knight, which means now we get into playing out the journey and testing this knight's honor.
Oh, boy.
I'm excited. I'm so excited. So the way that this is going to work, I have a deck of tarot cards in front of me. I have separated the minor arcana and major arcana, and I have taken 5 cards, 4 that are minor arcana and 1 major arcana without looking. I have placed the major arcana last, so I have 4 minor arcana, 1 major arcana. These are going to represent the 5 obstacles that you will face during the course of your quest. I am going to flip the first card and describe the scenario using the prompts below as the guide. You are going to respond, take action, and roll dice. We'll talk about what that looks like when it's time to roll dice. And we'll continue until we've resolved a scenario, and we flip over the next card. We continue to play until the quest is completed or until your knight's honor reaches 0 and the quest is failed.
All right.
I am flipping our first card. This is I have to remind myself what the suit is, because I don't fully remember what the suit of cheesesteaks is. I think it's wands. But I have to look at my little book.
That's that was, when you said it was a Philly tarot deck, that was not. I don't know why I wasn't expecting that, but
it is cups. Your cup your cup overflows with bounteous cheesesteaks. So we have the 10 of cups. Cups are a social situation in which the knight is out of place. A stranger on the side of the road asking for an unusual favor, a vulnerable beast, heretic, or monster in need of aid, a peculiar town with unfamiliar customs. This is you have departed from the royal feast of the Fey-touched court. You are wandering in an open, vast, and surreal, uncertain domain. You know, you look back and the castle seems both right behind you and also miles and miles away. And okay, I know exactly where we're going here. And you come upon as you follow this road, you come upon what looks like the remnants of a battle. What looks like a battle has just ended. There is a knight bearing the seal of the Fey-touched court, standing over. There are several scattered horses and a ruined cart, and the knight is affixing to his saddlebags is loading his saddlebags with what is clearly sounds and looks like bags of coins and gems. There are several slain bodies on the ground wearing tattered chainmail, a lack of symbols, and like very rudimentary armors, like wearing this knight looks visibly injured, but is loading treasure and goods onto their horse and regards you with a salute. What do you do?
The knight approaches and waves a little bit in salute and says, "Greetings, fellow. What has befallen this place?"
Justice dealt and glory made right. Waves a hand out. Bandits, thieves, robbers, taking and hoarding and stashing. They sought a quick getaway, and they were, unfortunately for them, not as fast as my horse. Gives his horse a little tap on the side, and not as sturdy as my blade. Justice was dispatched, and treasure is freed.
The knight regards this figure loading the treasure, and then looks around at the bodies. Do they seem as though they were fighting, like they were fighting back?
Yes, but like you can tell from their swords, you can tell from their you can tell from their swords, you can tell from their armor. They may have been they were probably fighting back, but it certainly doesn't even with the numbers advantage, it doesn't seem like it was a fair fight.
Yeah.
It seems like these were desperate amateurs trying to gather things to survive, who were ambushed by a heavily armored, well-armed soldier, quickly dispatched, and any fighting back they did was desperate defense against an opponent who simply was never going to be challenged by that.
So taking that in, they will turn to this other knight and say, "Friend, you are wounded. May I tend to your wounds?"
And they pause. There will be time for tending, but this is also a time for celebration.
Celebration? We must never celebrate the loss of so much blood. Surely we should get this treasure back to where it belongs, to the people from whom these bandits stole it.
And I pray you, how would we find to whom to return each individual piece of treasure? The crime has been committed, the deed done. There is no returning this from whence it came. It is simply lost to the aether. Anyone that could tell you from whence this treasure came is, and he kind of kicks one of these bodies in the side, is no longer with us to answer the question. There is no returning these. This is simply treasure for the taking, for the celebration of the court. Would you not join in this sudden, bountiful windfall upon our Lord?
While I certainly can understand the difficulty of trying to find who this treasure once belonged to, surely it is our sacred duty as knights of this realm to at least attempt it. If, say, we travel to the nearest town and ask around and they do not know, then perhaps we should return it to the castle and turn it over to the court.
A visible sense of disgust as he waves off. If we emerge in a town and merely offer them, we have received treasure and we would like to return it. Every would-be bandit in all but willingness to pick up a sword would claim it theirs.
I do not think that they would even think to challenge two knights of the Fey-touched court when one is so potent. I really think that we must make at least the attempt. It is for honor's sake, our responsibility.
And I think, puffs out his chest a little bit, like puts a hand on your shoulder and says, in time you will understand that honor is an easy path to wasted effort. It would take us right back where we started. We are returning to court, and we are going to celebrate this momentous victory, and I am going to get this stab wound, one more kick to a dead body, dealt with post-haste. Would you like to join me?
They sigh and look about and then say, I appreciate the offer, but I cannot. I am on a quest from our Lord. I must continue on my way. So if you must return with these goods to the court, so be it, but I must continue on my way.
And I think pauses for a moment, evaluates in his head, takes a step back, and says, "You are but a few feet from the castle. What is returning for a celebration? A sign of," as he taps the hilt of his sword a little bit, the sign of the compact between us, that we would celebrate this windfall and that we would let those who rest in the afterlife rest.
I, of course, wish to enjoy in this celebration, but I fear that if I return so soon to the castle, our Lord will be displeased. No, it is better for you to go and celebrate with those who are in the court, and I must continue on my quest.
I think this is a rolling of the dice.
I think so too, yeah.
I think this is rolling in the dice. This feels good. So, when you attempt a risky action and the outcome is uncertain, say what you hope will happen and ask the other player what could possibly go wrong. So you're going to say what you hope to happen, and I will tell you what could go wrong. Then you will gather dice and roll, and then we will see what goes from there. So are you acting in accordance with one of your mandates?
Yes.
Okay.
I am persevering to the end in any enterprise begun.
Great. Take a light die.
And I have two thoughts for this, because, and we can decide if this is not something that we want to sort of continue exploring. But in my knight's mind, I think that they're thinking that they will continue on to the next village and ask around themselves while they're on this journey. And if they find somebody that says, "Hey, yeah, we had some treasure raided from us," be like, "Okay, well, go to the castle and, make your plea to the court," sort of thing. So persevering in that, but also obviously persevering on the quest.
That feels great. That feels great. I think that we'll make that our next roll after this to kind of see how that shakes out. So take 1 light die.
Okay.
Are you using the power of a relic?
I don't know that this crown of flowers applies here because we're not in a place where hospitality is offered.
I think it makes sense. Yeah. Are you acting against a prohibition? I don't think so.
I don't think so, because I'm very clearly trying not to take anything for my own benefit.
Okay, so you're going to roll your 1 light die and tell me the result.
Okay. This is where I talk about how terrible my dice rolling always is. Yep, it's a 3.
Okay, the night fails and things get worse. The landscape describes how.
Oh, boy.
If the knight is unhappy with the roll, and the dark die is not the highest die, you may add a dark die and re-roll them, re-narrating the action to show you moving further from your code. Would you like to move further from your code? Are you going to take the failure, or do you want to push your luck?
I am... I feel like either way, it's going to be a bad thing for me, so I'm going to take the failure and see if I can... I'm not ready to start walking the path of darkness quite yet.
Okay, I think I know. I was supposed to tell you what could possibly go wrong in advance, but now I know what it is, especially after having heard what you're going to follow through after this.
Yeah.
You arrive in a nearby town. This town is ransacked, is the word I would use. Buildings have been burned. There's burn damage on buildings. People are bandaged up. This is a town that has been ravaged by bandits and protection rackets. And when you arrive, you are greeted with terror. People see you and they lock their doors. It is a tremendously difficult effort to find or to get anybody to speak to you.
Yeah.
And sure enough, what you find out is a knight of the Fey-touched court has been threatening this community for some weeks, has been leading a band of bandits and taxing this community, torturing and harming people that did not pay this tax, generally running a racket, generally just being awful to this community. And they describe the underlings of this knight of the court, and it matches the number that they describe. The three henchmen that traveled with this knight match perfectly to the 3 dead bodies that were on the side of the road. So the question becomes, do you turn back and confront the knight, or do you travel onward?
Did the knight, when we parted, did they head in the direction of the castle?
I think when you parted, they were still loading up their horses' saddlebags, and they were loading up their saddlebags, but also you swear you could still see them looming on the horizon. You can't quite tell, but there is a sense that they loom over this space. Yeah.
So the knight, I think, looks down the road in the direction that they are heading. The path that will eventually lead them to the court of the stone Goliaths, and looks back at these people who are cowering in their homes. And I think they say to themselves, I was sent on this quest to make peace. How can I make peace with another court when there is such discord in our own land? And they're going to turn around and head back towards that knight.
Great. You You see them on the road riding their horse leisurely back towards the castle. Their back is to you. They are they disregard the rider at their rear. What do you do?
They will call out and say, "Friend, wait. I had a change of heart, and you're right. Celebration is in order. I was rude before. Please, wait for me."
Wonderful. And I think like throws his arm wide. Wonderful. And as you ride up next to him, he reaches into his saddlebag, grabs like a small bag of ill-gotten gems or ill-gotten coins and like holds it over to you mid-ride. A gift for you, my friend. A symbol of our burgeoning compact of brotherhood.
The knight says, "I bear a gift for you as well," and is going to attempt to draw their sword and decapitate the other knight.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Roll me some dice. Are you acting in accordance with a mandate?
Yes.
You are persevering to the end.
I also think I'm acting against a prohibition.
I think so. You are not taking for your own benefit.
I think I am taking for my own benefit.
Oh, yeah. You are correct.
I'm
fair.
taking vengeance.
Yep. I will count that. Take a dark die. You are not using the power of your relic, so roll 2d6, 1 light, 1 dark, and tell me what the result is.
It's a 5 on the dark die.
5 on the dark die. The knight succeeds, but there is a complication. The landscape describes the complication, and the knight describes how they succeed. The complication here is, it's that you have struck down a knight of the Fey-touched court.
Yeah.
That is the complication. The complication is that as they fall, where they fall blooms into a mass of flowers and blossoms that reaches high into the sky and can be seen over the walls of the castle from anywhere in the distance. It is a billowing column that is immediately noticeable when a knight of the Fey-touched court collapses. Anyone can see it. It is known that this knight was struck down. It is known that this knight was beheaded. There is no turning back from that.
Yeah.
And you will also lose a point of honor, as the dark die was the highest die. And I think,
yep.
It says we work together to describe how the knight describe the move away from honor. I think it's pretty clear that you did not obey someone wearing the symbol of thy lord.
Yeah, and I think as their sword leaves its sheath and cuts across the air, whistles through the air, and separates this knight from their head, a small splatter of blood kind of speckles the armor.
Mm-hmm.
And my knight, after the deed is done, tries to wipe it off, and a couple of those droplets seem almost mystically to have stained the armor, and there's some power in striking down a fellow who was in a way defenseless, that has literally stained the knight's honor.
That's great. I love that. That's fantastic. That rules.
But they are going to turn and lead the horse, like shove the body off the horse and lead the horse back to that village with that treasure, and call to the village elders and say, "Those who have troubled you shall trouble you no more." And then they just ride on.
And that is the end of our challenge.
Yeah.
We'll flip our next card. We have the Eight of Cups. The Eight of Cups is another social challenge. You are out of your element. You travel onward. There is a narrow valley, just barely broad enough for you to ride across with your horse. You are You are between the walls of this valley, and the walls of this valley begin to speak to you. Voices beneath the stone begin to mutter and begin to whisper secrets to you and whisper threats to you. You know, you are marching to your death. This is not a peace treaty. This is a sacrifice, and you are the cow being sent to the slaughter. You will not be... There will not... Any compact made between Fae and Goliath will be marked with the blood of a human patsy. What do you do?
I think that the knight reaches up and feels that crown of laurels around that crown of flowers around their head, and thinks of the gift that they were bestowed, this gift of hospitality. And I think whispers to themselves in that moment, no, I am not going to my death. I go in service of the court and of my lord, and these gifts that have been bestowed upon me will protect me. The Goliaths don't want war any more than we do. Even those of stone must tire of the weathering of this world. And so they are going to put their head down and just kind of try to ignore those voices and push forward.
I'm going to say give me a die roll, and I think this is invoking the power of your relic. I think this is
awesome.
Calling for that. This is calling for hospitality, which means that it will be greeted in kind, and therefore add an extra light die to your roll.
All right, I've got 2 light dice. Here we go.
Do you think that you are acting against a prohibition?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yep. Then roll me 2 light.
Cool. I've got a 5.
5. Success with a complication. You succeed. I think the complication is that the ground opens up under you and you are hurtled into a cave beneath the earth.
Okay.
Your horse rears back like as a crevasse opens up, rears back, and you are hurtled forward into this underground cavern where rocks have formed a sort of rough table. The magic of the laurel crown has acted in a very literal fashion, and while this may not be the court of the Goliaths, you have certainly found yourself in you've certainly found yourself. Maybe this is not the court, but it is a court, and you have found yourself a guest.
So as they dust themselves off and look around this cavern and at this table, I think they say, hello?
A mass of stone in front of you, like, cracks, and arms and legs and a head emerge. Massive, spindly, gangly form, bending and curving at all angles, leans towards you, and finally, gets directly in your face. You have called for a parley, so speak your truth, knight.
I am on a quest of great importance. I seek the court of the Goliaths to deliver from the Fey-touched court word of peace, of a truce, and I wish for safe passage through this land so that I may fulfill my duty and in so doing bring peace and cooperation to our 2 great courts. Will you let me pass?
Give me a die roll.
All right.
What do we got here?
So I think persevering to the end is certainly in the cards here. I mean, I didn't really invoke the laurel at all.
I think it's still probably you're I think you're still invoking that benefit. I'll call this 2 light die.
Okay. Shall not. I don't think I've. I don't think I've asked.
I think this
for
is.
anything.
I think this is too. I think this is too light.
Yeah. Okay. A 2 is my highest die.
Incredible. Great. Would you like to add a dark die and roll again?
I would.
All right. So you're going to roll 2 light die and 1 dark and see what happens.
I think there's some resilience, and so the knight rests a hand on their sword and says, "I must press on. I wish that you will give me the passage, but if you will not stand aside, I will do what I must." Okay, so this is interesting. I have 2 5s, 1 light, 1 dark.
That means that it is a success with a complication, and you do lose. If the delight and dark is tied for highest, you lose a point of honor. And we describe
perfect.
how that works. I think. Let me look at your. What do we want the breaking of honor to be in this moment?
I think it is that act of threatening, because they have invoked the hospitality, and hospitality goes both ways.
Yep, that's true. That's a good point. And I think what has happened is you like the Goliath sits and then rears back. They're waving their fingers in the air and whispers, "If you trust the Fae with your life, who are we to question? It is not upon us on which poor judgment has been placed. That is a burden you will carry yourself." And like with a trembling laugh that is felt like an earthquake all around you, they wave an arm, and like a tunnel opens up in front of you. On the other side, your horse sits waiting, and you are guided through as the whispers merely say, Question your status, question the court that you have aligned yourself with, knight. The friends that you have made are not who they appear to be. And I think like when you finally like step onto your horse, yeah, the thing that we note is your armor has been like there's a textural change to your armor. Little tiny stalagmites have started to appear all like on various points, almost like armor spikes at various points on your armor. Your armor has become craggly and stone-like.
I love that. Can I add one other idea?
Yeah.
I think there is one of the flowers in the crown wilts.
Ooh, that's really good. That's really good. All right, I'm going to flip our next card, and it is the 6 of Wands. The 6 of Wands is a magical or spiritual challenge, which is perfect, and I know exactly what it is. You continue down this road, and as you walk alongside a river. As you walk along a river, you hear the chattering of laughter. You smell fruits and roasts, and you hear lilting music. The sounds of a decidedly fey feast have greeted you along this river. And as you crest over a hill, you are greeted by a thriving soiree. Fey beings dancing through bushes on all sides, and all eyes are upon you as they laugh and chatter amongst themselves. You are surrounded by this giddy assortment of fairies and fey creatures, all looking at you like you are the main event entertainment.
The knight rides forth into this clearing and raises a hand in salute and says, "Greetings, friends. What celebration I see before me?"
Why, we celebrate your legacy. We celebrate the great things that you have accomplished, or, oh, time is what it is, that you will accomplish, that you will be known for in time, the great deeds and actions that they will place upon your name, fair knight. This is all in your honor. Will you not dine with us?
I think they touch the crown upon their head and say, "Such hospitality is marvelous to behold. If I were not on an urgent quest from my lord, I would stay and revel with you. But alas, I must continue on my way. Perhaps in time I may return this way, victorious and successful as it seems I may be, and we can celebrate then."
But to wait in return, you would miss why your grand trophy is, why, here it comes now. And everyone begins to gather around as carried by 4 separate fairy attendants on something that is half silver platter and half medical gurney, is the headless armored corpse of a knight of the Fey-touched kingdom. The bountiful feast has arrived.
What is that doing here?
We are here to feast upon the bountiful quarry claimed by our mighty hunter, and celebrate the brave knight that struck down someone so powerful as a knight of the Fey-touched court. An act of great violence was committed, and we gather here to celebrate in that.
The knight is going to, I think, with a certain amount of grief on their face, because I think they did feel remorse at taking the life after the fact. Once the fire in their blood had cooled a little, and they, I think, spur their horse forward and say, no, this is not right. This is not a feast for anyone. No. And they're going to reach down and try to pull up the body of the knight onto the horse with them and ride off from this place.
Okay, give me a roll.
So
I think this is at least 1 light die for persevering to the end.
Yep. I think that I'm going to take I think I should take well, I guess this is up to you. I spoke to hospitality, but I'm gonna
say take the light die for that, for sure.
Okay. All right. But I am gonna take a dark die because I think the knight is also afraid of what happens if someone finds this body.
Sure. That tracks.
Yeah. So I'm gonna so I've got 2 light die, 1 dark die. Haven't gotten a 6 yet. Still haven't gotten a 6. So I got another 5. It's the game of 5s, but it is on the light die.
Okay. I think that the you snatch the body, you throw it on the horse, and giggling and tittering and laughing, they gather and they almost throw their arms out to be like, your pathway awaits, and they give you a clear path. You are given free exit to escape this moment. You flee. The complication is that you have this body. You exit this sort of surreal, illusory state, and that body that you left so far away is still on your horse.
Yeah. I think they ride for a time and then stop and find a place to bury the body.
I'm going to flip our last card. as we envision the burying of this body, just to see what occurs. Let me consult my little book. This is swords. This is the 8 of swords. So what is the swords? Is a hostile enemy or perilous confrontation. I think you are burying this body when over the horizon, riding, it's got to be a big freaky dune worm, right? That feels like the vibe.
Sure, absolutely.
Riding like a bursting, I think bursting from the like there is a rumbling in the ground. There is an earthquake beneath you, and bursting from the ground atop a jawed sandworm hops down a knight of the court of Goliaths who draws forth a hammer off of her back and looms over you. Not as tall as the Goliath before, probably 6, 7-ish feet. Still pretty damn tall, but not like a giant. Holding a weapon, holding over you. State your purpose and state what happened to this knight and why you desiccate the earth of the Goliath court with the body of the soldier of another kingdom.
Have I fully buried the knight?
I think the knight is like half buried.
The half buried. Okay. So the knight is going to rise up from the ground. I think they took the other knight's shield and have been using it to kind of dig in the dirt to create this hole to bury the knight. And so they like rise up from their kneeling position where they were furiously digging into the earth with the shield, and it's kind of hanging there loosely in one hand as they look at this Goliath knight and say, I apologize. I did not realize that I was desecrating the land here. Where I come from, we bury our dead. It is a sign of honor and respect. This knight fell in a conflict, and I am on a mission to your very court to offer up peace. And I did not think that I could turn back to our own lands in order to bury this body. So I am here attempting to do honor to this fallen knight while continuing on my journey.
I'm going to have you roll dice here.
Okay.
Because I think what they say as you roll dice is, I can see the blood on your armor.
Yeah.
You tell me of conflict. It seems as though this was a conflict with you on the other side. I can smell the iron in their blood on your blade.
That's good. Okay, so I'm going to take a light die for really just persevering.
I think so, yeah.
And then I think it's only fair to take a dark die because I feel as though...
you took a dead body for your own benefit. I think that counts.
Yep. And also I am lying about my purpose for my own benefit. So here we go. 2d6. Oh, of course. 3 on the light die.
Would you like to... 3 on the light die? Would you like to...
Which is still a failure.
Would you like to add a dark die and re-roll?
Of course I would.
Okay.
This is far too important. My quest matters far too much to be stopped here. 6 on the light die.
Okay, that is a pure success. That is a pure success. I think they eye the dying, wilting crown on your head and the stalagmites on your armor, and they kind of pacing around you. Tell me one truth, knight, in light of the lies, and I shall take you to the king of the Goliaths. What did this man do that you would strike down your own kin and bury them in a shallow grave where no family nor loved ones would ever find them?
This one who I can no longer call knight, for such a word in my mouth is bitter when speaking of this one, stole from townspeople on our lands, ravaged and destroyed their village, took their treasures, and worst perhaps of all, would have returned merrily back to our court and made a mockery of us all. So yes, I struck him down. My blade cleaved his head from his shoulders, because what he did was dishonorable and not becoming of a knight of the Fey-touched court. That is why this one lies in a shallow grave.
Without a word, turns to you, points to a cavern opens beneath you, and they gesture. She's like, "Go forth and greet the king."
The knight bows and enters the cavern.
All right, now we draw our major arcana. This is our final challenge. We use the iconography of the face card or major arcana, as well as details of the quest and details we've come up with over our challenges to color our encounter with the final obstacle. So I am going to flip our... This feels great. This feels fun. This feels very appropriate. And also I get to show off a little bit of local Philly lore. It's winds all the way down. Our card is the Hermit. The Hermit is... all of the major arcana are represented by various notable figures from the city and history of Philadelphia. I'm going to drop a link here in our chat. This is... The Hermit is represented by Isaiah Zagar. Zagar is an artist who is responsible for one of my favorite things in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Magic Gardens. I've posted a link in the chat. This is what you see when you emerge into the tunnel. It is glistening. Oh, wow. It is shining, shimmering, glistening. It is stone collage. Every piece is 1,000 gems and crystals and quartzes lining every piece of the wall, creating this rainbow kaleidoscope effect. It is as though this is the inner quartz of the mountain that is the world. Everything is color and overwhelming, and you see the Goliaths, you see the stone knights pacing and eyeing you, and you finally come to the heart, and it is one tiny, hunched over being of stone and earth and plant and vine, quietly polishing rocks and scraping away bits of dirt and root, and turns back towards you. So this is the knight that they have sent to call forth... Is it peace or is it war this time? It seems they change their mind every time they send one of your ilk.
The knight takes a knee and is going to reach up and lift the crown of flowers off their head and hold it forth and say, "Goliath King, I come on behalf of the Fey-touched court bringing words of peace and hospitality. Let there be no war between our two courts.
I think this is a dice roll.
Yeah.
I think what could go wrong here is this is clearly not the first knight that has made an offering.
Yep.
And I don't know if he's going to trust you. I think he may ask you for some kind of horrifying back it up. Is I think what could go wrong.
Absolutely. So I'm going to take 2 light dice, one for the relic, one for perseverance to the end. Here we go. 2 5s on the dice.
I think he does ask you to back it up. I think the complication is I'm trying to decide what I think he is. What is the statement?
I am tempted to push this die roll and take a dark die and roll again.
Do it.
To see if I can get to that 6. Because I can keep doing that until my highest is a dark die, right?
You could. Until yep.
It's another 5 on the light die. I'm going to push one more time.
Okay.
So I got 2 light and 2 dark now. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I got 3 5s, and one of them is one of the dark dice. So
incredible.
It was meant to be.
I think that the assurance that the Goliath King needs is okay. Yep, there it is. I had to think about it for a second. I know exactly what it is. And this might also represent both the loss of honor and the visualizing of that loss of honor. We will agree to peace with your kingdom. We will entrust that the court of the Fey Touched will be a neutral middle ground in our ongoing quest for peace. And I think he takes like a chisel and puts it to your forehead. But we will not, under any circumstances, declare peace with the court of the Fae. You may act as intermediaries. You may act as peacekeepers between us. You may be friends with everyone. But we, and he gestures to the stone knights that are looming now, seemingly larger than they were before, will not extend that courtesy to the court of the Fae. And you, peacekeeper, if you wish to acknowledge this arrangement, will not, as he jabs the crown on your head and knocks it ajar, will not stand in my court wearing the crown of those that we stand in defiance of. If you wish to accept our peace arrangement, you shall leave that crown wilting on the ground. Do this, and we trust you, and we'll accept your arrangement.
I think they look at where the crown has fallen on the ground and think back to the time when it was gifted to them by their lord. And it was the symbol of peace that they carried to this place. And so this act by the Goliath King feels almost like a dishonor to their lord. But then the words of the quest come unbidden to their mind, and they remember that their mission was not to deliver this laurel, but to make peace. And so, picking up this crown of leaves, they look up to the Goliath King and say, I will carry this peace between us, but I have been touched of the Fae. If I am to be this intermediary, I must be touched of the stone as well. Will you make this laurel of leaves into a crown of stone that I may carry our peace back to my lord?
Leans back, smiles, taps the chisel to his mouth a couple times, takes the crown slowly off of your head, taps a few of the blossoms, and they turn into big honking rocks. It is now a crown equally of flowers and big ugly stones, and plants it on your head, and your head sags. We accept your place as an intermediary in our ongoing strife. We accept this peace offering. Go forth and tell your lord that there will be no trouble between the Fae-touched and the Goliath. And you look around and you blink and you are in a dank, rotting cave underground. There is no sign of shimmering stone. There is no sign of magic. It is simply a dirty underground cave.
They, with this new weight upon their head, rise up and turn to depart the cave and make their return home.
And with that, the game, we end the game. The knight has succeeded. The knight returns home, and their journey back is uneventful, and home waits for them with welcome arms. We alternate turns, describe the knight returning to the lord's domain victorious, describe the benefits of returning home, rewards from their lord, the sight of familiar faces, and I describe how the knights lost honor and its marks color their reception, sating every welcome encounter with strangeness, suspicion, distrust, and disappointment. So, we'll just go back and forth 2 or 3 times. What does your return look like? What is waiting for you when you return?
So I think the first thing that they see when returning to the castle is their father, who is missing their right arm, right about where that crack in the shoulder plate of the armor that they wear would be. And there is a look of pride and, I think, relief as well at the sight of the knight returning from their quest.
And I think standing with them is standing with your father is his best friend, whose face you see is the spitting image of the knight whose head you claimed. And as you look at him, he is wearing this very nice, courtly tunic, and the same splotches of blood that is on your armor appears onto his tunic in the exact same spots, marking it and you and he forever.
I think the knight is welcomed back into the court, and they offer up the crown to their lord as a new relic. It no longer means that when offered hospitality, you pass through safely, and whatever challenges might have arisen are negated. No, now it means that when worn into a place where there is conflict, peace prevails. And I think as a reward, their lord elevates them to a position of honor within the court.
And I think as you are welcomed with celebration as you are given this role in the court, and what you see as the feast begins is those same fae from the road gathering around and chittering and tittering and laughing, and all eyes are upon you just as they were in that clearing, celebrating your names and deeds and whispering, and you can't quite hear what they're whispering, but eyes continue to fall upon you with a look of pride, but also scandal and surprise and confusion. And you can't be certain that that's what you're sensing, but you get this overwhelming sense that people are whispering and then looking in your direction.
Yeah.
And then, do we have any more? Do we think that's it? Do we think that's game?
I think that's game.
And that's game. This fucking ruled. I'm so thrilled. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for playing this with me. What was your favorite moment from play?
Oh boy. Every single second of it. This was incredible. It was a blast. I really loved that ending with the cave of the Goliath King, and having this sort of visual representation that you sent me is it's so vivid and in a little way chaotic, but also just absolutely beautiful, that really really helped to make it pop for me. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like every single one of those challenges, there was a moment in there that I was like, oh, this is so cool.
I'm so glad. I'm so happy. This was fantastic. I got everything I wanted from this, of just thoroughly like seeing a pattern of beliefs and going, what if we just really push this to its limit? What if we really just fucked with this? And that was the most satisfying experience. Thank you so much for playing this with me. I am overjoyed.
Thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me on.
So real quick before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Yeah. So once again, I have been Steve Morrison of the Errant Adventures solo actual play role-playing game podcast, which you can find on all podcatchers of choice. I have my website, which is errantadventurespod.com, that has links to various seasons and some like short fiction and stuff like that. As far as social media goes, I really hate social media.
Fair. Valid.
It's terrible. Yeah. But I am on Twitter. I refuse to call it by any other name for as long as it exists. And so I am Errant Solopod over there. I'm also on Instagram as Errant Solopod, and Threads as Errant Solopod. I'm pretty sure. I don't post a lot, but I'm around, and I'm usually pretty responsive if you message me or otherwise try to get a hold of me. So other than that, I am mostly just on the internet, telling stories, rolling dice, and trying to come up with cool moments.
Great. Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This was an absolute pleasure. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take a future me.
Thanks, Past Me. And thanks again to Steve for coming on the show. Man, that game was something special. I think that we truly did something really, really astounding with that game, and I've been like giddy about it. Just the entire process of editing it and re-experiencing it, just chef's kiss, magical. Be sure to head to errantadventurespod.com to check out Errant Adventures, including the special 2-player bonus episode that Steve and I recorded together. And be sure to head to cprevis.itch.io to pick up your own copy of Errant. And then, of course, follow Steve on social media at Errant Adventures.
You can also find us on pretty much whichever social media you prefer, at Party of One Pod or Jeff Stormer, depending.
And if you enjoy the show and you want to support it, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Subscribe to our newsletter at buttondown.email/partyofonepodcast, and join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. supporting. You can support us financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or Ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. You can give us a nice iTunes review, shout us out to a friend, give us some love on social media. You can buy some Party of One merch at bit.ly/PartyOfOneMerch. Or if you're looking for more great podcast content, you can check out All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world building podcast that I make with my best friend in the world, Errant Saez. We take a listener submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. You can also check out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, which is an actual play about a heartless witch, a cozy house, and the many people making their homes inside. Both of those you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Rain, featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logos by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And unless I am mistaken, that is all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.